Hey guys, and today, as the video title suggests, I'm going to be turning blocks into anything, or specifically anything into anything with blocks. So if I click this button, a random block will appear above my head. There it was a button, there it was something with redstone, there it was an oak block that was filled with water, oh my goodness, and it will really be any, oh goodness, I really messed this one up, but it will really be any block in the game. So if I go ahead and click this, it becomes, yeah, again, a waterlogged block. I don't like that. And there it is, a quartz block. There's a lot of other cool things we can do with this. So we can immediately turn this bookshelf into a falling sand that then becomes a bookshelf. We can also read this block and set it over here. I just made it disappear when I get off the pressure plate. Or we can read the block and turn it into a falling sand. Or we can read the block and turn it into a mirrored version of itself, which was actually the more specific thing to do. And finally, you can do literally anything with this website. So anyways, I spent a good maybe 3 weeks on this, maybe even 4. Essentially, I created my block serializer in JavaScript, and then I made a website for it, and I made a website for all my other generators so that I don't have the Google site anymore. It's now the cloudwolfyt github.io, and you can use it to the different subpages. Now, the way this works is actually pretty simple. So it has a binary search tree of block tags. So you can see all these block tags it creates. It creates a total of, well, let's see. Properties. It creates 683 block tags. And what they do is they filter their way down. So if you pick block tag level 9, then it will encompass basically everything. If you pick 8-1, it will encompass half of everything. And 8-2 will encompass the other half of everything. Oh, well, 8-0. So level 9 encompasses these two levels, and then level 0 will encompass 0 and 1, and level 1 will encompass 2 here, and then level 0 here will encompass 0 and 1, level 1 will encompass 1 and 2 and 3, and so on and so on, and it creates a binary tree of block tags based off of a blocks.json. So when 1.16 comes out, all I have to do is throw a new resource up to the website and it'll instantly work for 1.16. You can rerun your generator however you want. Now what this generator actually does is it makes a namespace that you can copy into your data pack because it doesn't require any load or tick functions necessarily. There will be one thing that you need to do in your world, and that will be scoreboard objectives add BSC dummy. And that's all you really need to do. I didn't put that into the packager because you don't always need it, and it would be annoying to have like a separate, make it an entire data pack. I'd rather just give you a namespace. But yeah, you need the BSC scoreboard. Now, what this thing does is it'll generate a file and a folder. The folder you don't touch because it has all of the sub pages ordered. And you cannot rename any of these folders. You cannot rename the folder of the thing that you get. And you cannot rename the namespace from BSC. Otherwise, it won't work. Now, they say basically what they do. So all I need to do, and I'm going to type it in chat so you can see exactly how many commands it runs. So I'm going to do, let's go ahead and put a half slab down so I can be inside it when I type this. So scoreboard objectives display sidebar BSC. So I will do function BSC read. It does 43 commands to read this half slab. Now, the amount of commands it takes is anywhere between, I think, 28 and 113, depending on how complicated the block is. If you are reading something that has a lot of block states, like maybe a command block or a banner, it'll take a lot more. But if you're reading something that's simple, like a stone, it'll take only 28 or so. Now, the read turns it into a scoreboard value, which you can save. It also saves MBT data onto an MBT structure. If I do this, then I do data get block, data get storage, BSC, and then it saves it under NBT. So this data storage will have everything that is associated with the block. So I'll put a diamond sword in it. I'll play read, and you can see it took 135 because chests can have a lot of different variations to them. So if I read BSC, it saves the MBT of the block with the items and the sword. So you can restore it immediately afterwards or save this somewhere. But each time you read, it deletes that storage. So if I read again, then that storage will be gone. So it just does that for efficiency's sake. And then you can decide where that goes. I don't really have a good method, so you just add on to the actual files. So let's say you wanted to copy the MBT into the following block in the following block section. Once this thing loads, okay. So let's say you wanted to copy it here. You can just do like the data modify blah entity blah 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 blah, and to copy it from, you just type in the necessary data modify in here. Now this actually has some cool stuff involved. For example, the mirror. The mirror is a very special one because it mirrors, so I had to make it a separate function to generate the mirror. The mirror just basically flips it, or if there isn't anything to flip, it just puts the block. So for example, the slab has nothing to flip, so it just puts the slab, and it takes the same amount of commands as the set block does. Now the following block is the same amount of commands. Everything uses the same amount of commands. If you're using an output type or an input type, they're all the same amount of commands. So set block, read, following block. Read will be one more extra command, 2 more extra commands for the data stuff. Following block, mirrored, they all use the same amount of commands and do the same thing. It's just the output is different, what they actually do at the result. But there is some cool, interesting things, and we'll go over how to use and package this guy. Because when I type reload, this will take me maybe a minute to reload because there's just so many functions here. There's maybe a couple thousand. Let's see. There is 3,420, and maybe you don't need 3,420. Maybe you don't need read. Maybe you don't need set block. Maybe you don't need mirrored. Maybe you don't need following block. Maybe you just want instant sand, which, by the way, takes 33 commands for if it's air. So instant sand is very nice. It's very fast. Keep in mind that air just turned into a sand block because there is no block for air. But if I did a half slab, if I did a half slab where I'm standing, it would really put it as a half slab. Granted, that thing just pops when it hits the ground because that is what it is. But that's instant conversion, and instant conversion will be 2 times faster than reading and writing. Reading and writing is really just for data transfer purposes. So anyways, so this is the website, and Mighty Coder helped me with some of the CSS, but I made all the JavaScript and the HTML. So this is the block ID packager. Essentially, you just check the boxes for what you want, and then you click download pack. Now, I don't have a loading progress bar because it packages and runs all the code instantaneously, so there's not too much asynchronous stuff going on. So basically your page is just going to freeze for like a minute depending on how many things you have checked here. But just I'll go through it and let you see approximately how long it takes. So anyways, block to score is the typical read. This one just turns a block into a score. It's already checked because you probably want it to begin with, but you might not. Then set block, summon falling sand, block, set block but mirrored. These are your different basic options I showed you. And then there's custom ins and custom outs. Well, other way around. Custom output, custom input. So custom output basically says it branches based off of what the ID is, and then at the result, it does something. So I created all these variables for you to define what it's doing. So $ID means the ID of the block. $block means the block itself. $props means the properties of the block, like is it facing east or west, and $nprops means the properties in an MBT format, so east : true. And you need this distinction for you use $props for set block, and you use $nprops for summon falling sand. So this is a demo of an output, so using all of them. So if the score matches the exact score that you're at, then and then it says the props in the formatted version. And you can delete this and type your own command in whatever you want, and then you click the checkbox and it'll generate that command. Now the custom input is actually the more useful one. This guy is how I do the instant conversions. So you're able to basically make this happen when you're reading. So before you turn things instead of turning things into a number, you just instantly do this. So if the block here is equal to the block that it is. So if the block is the same block, and the properties are the same properties of the block that it's there, then you will summon a falling sand 5 blocks above it who has a block state. And the block state has a name for the block. What block is this block? Well, it is the block that it is, the dollar block. And what properties does the block have? It has nprops, which means formatted in an MBT format properties. And it has a time of 1. So you can use this guy to do whatever you want. Maybe you want to do something like SethBling did in his Minecraft Earth, where he turns blocks into the floating falling sand on an armor stand and a shulker. You could paste your whole armor stand shulker thing here, replace the name of the block with $block, the name of the properties with $m properties, and the beginning of the command with execute if block $dollar properties. And you could basically recreate that, and it actually doesn't take too long to reload. So we're going to go ahead and export one of these guys. Let's call this InstaSand, and you can change the name of the branch. That way, like, if you want more than one custom input, you can just generate it, and then you can like click on these 2 files and drag them into like a different BSC sub category. Anyway, so I click download. It'll probably take upwards of 20 to 30 seconds, even just for one, and that's because it's doing a lot of stuff. It's a lot of files. But that's pretty much the gist of the website. I'm going to be adding more generators soon, but I thought this was a very useful one because it does quite a bit. You can turn a block into basically anything that involves a block. So you can turn a block into any other thing. Like, for example, you could summon an entity that has a block on its head that is that block. Oh, okay, so it downloaded. That didn't take actually that long. It's 2.9 megabytes, so it's fairly large. And we're going to go ahead and see how long it takes for me to reload. Granted, I already have the previous pack loaded, so there's some freeing up of space it'll need to do. But essentially, you just download it. Click on, it says BSC here, right? So if you just want to replace everything, you can just go delete, and it'll delete everything from there. And then you can click and drag into the folder. And that didn't actually take too long since there's only one thing. And you can see that this is a lot less. It created a read folder anyway. I'll try and fix that in the update, but there are some folders it creates are empty and not useful. But it's only 684 functions now because you're only doing one thing. If I type /reload and then I type /function space, oh look, it already loaded. Okay, so anyways, it's not too bad. It might take a little bit longer for you. Oh wait, no, it hasn't reloaded, has it? Okay, all right, so it's still loading. But it might take a while to load because of all the block tags, and I understand that it can be an unnecessarily large load onto the world, but sometimes it's the best option because it's pretty hard to instantly convert things. So here's InstaSand, and it'll just do the InstaSand conversion just like we did before. Anyways, that's pretty much it. There isn't too much to show with this, but it has a lot of potential. It has quite a bit of potential, and you can mess around with it and play with it. It's on the website. I have a couple new remake videos coming in the future. Hopefully you guys are looking forward to those. But anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.